All right, welcome back, everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I am back, and it is time for another Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 replay cast. We are going to be having ourselves another ZVT or TvZ, whatever way you want to look at it. We've got a Zerg and a Terran in this match. And this is one of my favorite rivalries that we have today. I know I cast a lot of TvZ on this channel, but I just couldn't resist clicking on this one. In the bottom right-hand side of the map, we have souL playing for Team MCurse, and his opponent playing for Raise Your Edge Gaming. It's Bly. And Bly and souL have been known to create the occasional crazy match. I've cast a few of them on the channel before, and they are just nuts games, long games, scrappy games, most importantly, like both players barely mining, things like that. And now we're going to be having the craziness of it being a new map. It's Eco Station, one of the maps for the Team Liquid map contest, which is basically just like a tournament to test out different maps, different features, things like that, that would potentially work well. See what people really like, see how pros play on the maps, as that's the most important part for the maps. And yeah, so we have got souL, who's a very good Terran player. He's known to be a little bit chaotic at times, but I am indeed a big souL fan. I'm also a big Bly fan. Bly is just such a nice guy. He's such a nice Zerg player. He plays crazy games. He's always like giving absolute nuts matches. He plays in like every single tournament under the sun. And so, yeah, that's why I'm excited to cast these two again. Before things get too heated up, we are past the 2-minute mark, and souL is at 22 supply. So let's try and hit 22 likes on this video, ladies and gentlemen, for epic TvZs, which there's a lot of on this channel. Make sure to slap that like button. Now, I haven't said too much about the openings yet. That's because they have been very, very standard openings. And oh, this is actually kind of interesting. I'm just looking at this map here. The Reaper is being microed against the Lings. Nothing should happen there. It says 15 on this base, 14 on this one, 7 on this one. Okay, where's number? I'm guessing that 1 is under one of the hatcheries. So if one of the main bases get destroyed, maybe we'll see the number 1. That's the hope for this game. This one doesn't have a number though. This one does. I guess they're helipads maybe. I'm not sure. Cool little aesthetic on the map, the random numbers. What do the numbers mean? What do the numbers mean, Mason? Enough of that incoherent yelling. I guess it's not like clock positions, is it? It's definitely not. 7, 9. Okay, well, all right. Enough of looking at these numbers. I could be distracted by them all day. However, as it is a StarCraft 2 match, things usually take a little bit to heat on up. souL's going for a starport. He is a Terran player who is known to go for battle cruisers every now and then. However, seeing as how he's already starting the tech lab on the barracks, I want to say that that's going to lead to like banshees instead of battle cruisers, as you can save the minerals, get the fast fusion core, and there we go. Just the fact that he wanted the really quick tech lab leans to indicate that it is indeed going to be banshees. Now this Reaper's going to want to hightail it out, but oh no, souL going to lose his Reaper. Big mistake there. You don't want to be losing your Reaper when you don't really have a reason to. As this game is going on, Bly is just pumping out the drones for now, so he's not going for any crazy all-in. We didn't see a proxy hatchery, despite it being a Bly game. Pneumatized Carapace is also on the way for Bly, which is exciting to see. It indicates that he is quite comfortable. He just wants to scout what his opponent's going and then play from there. However, it would seem that Bly already has a decent idea of what his opponent's doing. The fact that he saw Stim makes me wonder if that's enough to rule out the fact that it could be a potential battlecruiser rush, as that's one of the things Zergs have to worry about. But I'm pretty sure he's seen the Banshee now, so he fully knows what's coming his way. He fully knows that it's going to be Cloak Banshee, Stim follow-up, 3 CC play behind that. A very mature decision indeed from Bly. Now, souL is staying back at home with his Hellions because he's worried about a potential Ling counterattack, and rightfully so. However, as we take a look at this, I mean, Bly, he just fired up another round of Lings. There is the 3 racks play coming up from souL. Soon there'll be 4th and 5th added on, that double E-base, so just a very standard opening coming out of souL behind this. Very standard play from Bly. Nothing super important to point out. I mean, we can guess what number of base Bly is going to take next on this map. I mean, I've never seen a game on this map, really. Will it be 14 or will it be 3? I want to say Bly is going to take 3. I think that's probably the better idea. It is a cool thing for casters how the bases are numbered, though, so you can actually just see, like, oh yeah, they're going to go take this base. souL's Banshees can definitely get this Queen, which is a nice pickup, but there hasn't been a lot else that's been done to the Zerg yet. Bly makes a spore, but then it gets cancelled, the drone gets killed. Another Queen potentially going to go down. souL wants it, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it. Might get himself another drone. There we go, 2 drones have gone down. Now the Hellions are going to dive into the 3rd base. However, there is a plethora of Zerglings here to greet them, and these are a bunch of dead Hellions. They will not be getting that much damage. Then 8 drones in all. The Banshees are still alive, so 9 drones for 6 Hellions. It's not a terrible trade. Bly, though, is getting up a macro hatchery. I'd like to see it be a 4th base. Like, I know getting up a macro hatchery is very important for Zerg. However, I do question the times in which Zergs go for their macro hatchery before they go for the 4th base. I honestly think that getting up that 4th base sooner is going to give you a better benefit for helping your creep spread. It's going to just, like, help you get defined earlier. But then again, I'm not a Zerg player, so I would not know. Lings are charging on in towards the 3rd base here for Bly. They're going to set to work on these SCVs trying to build depots. The Banshees, though, very helpful tool to defend. Basically, just them alone will eventually repel the Lings. But here we go. souL starting to drop out on the map. Forgive me as things get a little bit silent there, just had to mute the mic for a second. I have, on a completely random casting note, I have been wondering if there's anything I can do to prevent myself kind of getting, like, stuffed up in long casts, as that seems to be a problem for me. Not that you guys wanted to know that. That's totally, like, unrelated, but I have been thinking about reaching out to other casters. I do notice that after, like, the long casts that I can get a bit nasalier than I was at the start. Not that anyone needed to know that, but anyway, here we go. souL's starting to drop all over the map. He's dropping in the 5th base, in the main base. Gonna get 7 drones already. He's dropping at the 4th base. He's gonna be getting repelled by the Queens, though. So souL, he does end up getting repelled, but he gets 9 drones in all. Got a little bit of damage. It seems like things were really starting to heat up there, and it looks like they will continue to heat up more as these Marines are now dropping at the 5th base location. I was totally wrong on what base Bly was going to take first. Those Marines do not escape, by the way. Spire on the way here for Bly. Centrifugal hooks on the way here as well. Gonna have that Baneling speed, gonna have a Spire, so Bly's gonna play the Ling Bane Muta. I honestly hate Mutalisk in the current TvZ meta. Like, Mutalisks were very good in Heart of the Swarm back when the game moved much slower. And the amount of damage that you could get from microing a Mutalisk really started to add up. And it was a significant amount of damage because the game was much slower, so any pickoff you got had more value. But just the little pickoffs that you get with Mutas aren't really worth it. And as a matter of fact, you're usually losing a lot of Mutalisks, so it's actually hard to have a net positive trade with them because engagements tend to happen much, much quicker than they used to, it would seem. souL's pushing on in towards the 4th base of Bly. He is going to pick that off without a doubt with the siege tank support. Bly is pulling back. He's making Banelings. He's getting 2-2 on the way. And he will actually have faster upgrades in that regard. which could potentially help him shut down souL in a big engagement. For now, though, I mean, simply take a look. The supply very far behind here for Bly. As he is down 20 to 30 suppliers. So he's got a lot of banelings, though. He's making mutas, but I honestly just do not like mutas. Now, the thing for Bly is that he does have a giant amount of banelings. I was going to say something different there, but 42 banelings is a lot of banelings. They're now going to be crossing the map here for souL. They're going to be pushing on in. It would appear that the Medivac is going to be back at the third base there. Bly wants to get an engagement on top of these tanks, on top of these Marines before they get sieged up, but oh, he eats some nasty tank shots there. And this is the problem for Bly. souL has so many siege tanks that as long as Bly doesn't catch him completely off guard, it is going to be tough for the Zerg to take a good engagement. And now with souL adding Widow Mines into the mix for this, this is just not looking pretty here for the Zerg player. Once again, it seems that souL is just going to win against Bly in the late game. Just Bly will fall apart. He's trying to secure up more bases to just counteract the loss he's taking. He does kill those Marines to defend himself, but the problem is there's really nothing that isn't squishy in his army. We take a look, there's going to be 10 drones going down to those Widow Mines. A counterattack is being attempted from Bly, but souL is doing a good job defending that. He's got a PF at his 4th. He's got Widow Mines at his 3rd, so he should be fine. This base here, the 4th base goes down. Bly did secure up another base, so it's a bit of a whack-a-mole game for souL. However, like, this is just not a good spot for Bly. He's now going to try and get into Ultralift, so if he can survive long enough for those, that would really benefit him as the Ultras aren't squishy. They can break tank lines, they can break Widow Mines, but Lings and Banes will not trade efficiently. And oh, Bly on the high ground actually rolls down with a few Banelings, trying to get a sneaky trade there. All in all, though, I don't think we've seen the Mutalisk get a lot done at all versus souL. We see Bly, he's trying to break down these rocks, open up additional attack paths. Looks like he could potentially get that. For now, though, souL just going to drop towards the main base, all the while getting up another command center after that. souL is playing the late game here against Bly. Bly isn't the strongest Zerg in the late game that we've seen. He tends to play like these chaotic styles with lots of Lings and whatnot. I mean, and so as a result, we've already seen souL pick off multiple bases, and souL has no problem just throwing up extra production and structures here. Widow Mines move forward. They pick off a good number of, or Banelings move forward. They pick off a good number of Widow Mines. There is plenty more where that came from, though. That is the problem for Bly. So he might honestly just have to abandon this base once more, as souL is going to push on in. The Banelings can move forward, but the tanks are going to zone them out. The Widow Mines prevent Bly from just comfortably jumping on the army. We do take a look, there's going to be a massive Ling counterattack heading towards the production of souL. The individual bases are pretty well defended. However, the actual production could be vulnerable if Bly can get in. souL did raise that wall, though, and he is going to pull back to defend this. So Bly got himself a nice counterattack done. It's going to cost him a lot of Lings for attacks, but he did pull souL all the way back. This is going to have bought Bly time. He's able to get up a few of these Ultras. He's getting up Chitinous Plating, 3-3, Adrenal Glands, so he is surviving. And compared to, like, the last TvZ, which I casted of Bly, I think he's doing a much better job. I do like the strategy that Bly has chosen, basically just to abandon bases, take another, because, I mean, there's a lot of time in Starcraft 2. As long as you're building 2 bases, it doesn't matter if your opponent's killing 1. And resources lost. Bly hasn't lost that much more than souL. It's not like he's bled off tons of units. He's lost 36 drones, but for a 14-minute game for a Zerg who's on 70, that is not the end of the world. And so I don't mind that spot at all for Bly. The fact that he has lost bases because he's always been getting up another, he's got more to show for it, as opposed to just dying on a hill, trading off too much supply that he just sort of falters. Now, souL, he's sending out a drop. He's also getting up a ton of ghosts, so we could be seeing nukes go down here from souL. Potentially just going to nuke the bejeebus out of Bly. There we go, first 2 nukes getting queued on up there in those Ghost Academies. Cloak as well. A Greater Spire is about to finish up for Bly, so he will have that consolidating force in the Broodlords, which essentially just say, nope, you can't attack on in unless you've got a good number of Vikings. you gotta make, say, I don't know, a good number of ghosts, which is very tough for Terran to do, to get up enough Vikings to actually challenge the Broodlord Corruptor army, to get up enough ghosts to do it. Usually the Terran counteracts this by hitting all over the place to weaken the Zerg, and we are seeing souL go for multiple harassment right now. Liberator on the right-hand side gets shut down. This drop on the left-hand side will get shut down, and take a look at this now. All of a sudden, Bly, he's going for a big old drop. This is something like 5 times 8. 40 Zerglings in the main base of souL right now, just getting unloaded. The Liberators aren't the quickest at cleaning these up. However, the Bio does retreat very, very punctually from souL and is going to be able to just clean up these Lings. 12 SCVs have died amidst this, but nothing too concerning at all. The Corruptors are looking for any pickoff they could potentially get. They're actually looking for the Liberators, which would be nice, but with all the Marines, it's not going to happen. souL is now making ghosts, which is very expensive, so his bank isn't actually going to be that high. It's going to take a while before he builds that strong army, before he can basically do that. Banelings connect with a tank, pick off the sensor tower, realizing that they got to get something. All the while, we have Carapace, Flyer Carapace on the way here for Bly. Just wanting to make sure he has those Broodlords and Corruptor upgrades going, which is great to see. The Corruptors are very tanky units. Having the Carapace makes them much more so. Meanwhile, another Ling counterattack heading into souL. Heading into souL's base. Looks like souL has faltered a little bit, almost loses the command center as a result. As once the Zerg breaks through the Terran's defense initially, like Bly did, each subsequent attack seems to be easier. But now, take a look at this. There's the counter nukes moving out. I missed them flying into the sky, but there's one hit in this space here. The drones run actually right next to the Ghosts. There's one hit in this space here. The drones run away from there. The Ghost can actually just start killing the drones after this, though. So the nuke isn't killing the drones. The actual Ghost is. Bly should deal with this. However, souL has taken this opportunity he created with the nukes to push on in towards his opponent's base. There's going to be another nuke on the right-hand side. An Overseer is getting made. The Ghost is out of cloak, so that Ghost will die. This one hasn't called in another nuke because souL is busy with the push right now. Bly is going to have to repel this force. Looks like it is going to be getting repelled. Okay. Broodlords, they are that solid force that souL really can't push in. However, souL, he's now going to take down the base in the top right. Bly is definitely going to need to expand to another location sooner rather than later. I feel if he's lost this base, he's losing the right-hand side of his base. His income could drastically drop soon. And while he's going for his own counterattacks on souL, there is the simple mule fact that it's easier for the Terran to recover from an economy that hits a low point. Like, Terran can afford to lose 20 SCVs more than the Zerg can lose 20 drones. The Terran can essentially be later with their rebuilding, but take a look at this now. Bly just wants to push on into his opponent now, and it would seem that it could potentially work. He's actually just going to go for it. Banelings and Ultras crashing forward. The Siege tanks want to hit the Banelings, but the Banelings actually sectioned off to the right to avoid the tanks. All the tanks are going to get cleaned out. Bly won the air fight rather convincingly, and it looks like he will get this base. His own economy isn't that strong. He's basically just down to 4 bases. A lot of them mined out. This nuke could potentially kill this hatchery. It won't quite. It's going to deal 500 damage to that hatchery, I believe. 500 damage, there we go. So the hatch will stay alive. It's vulnerable, though. But souL, his supply has dropped. He's having to kite Banelings right now. He's doing a pretty good job with that. However, the problem is there's simply too many Corruptors here, which are going to cover the Broodlords from the Vikings, so then the Broodlords can deal with everything on the ground. Corruptors are extremely good in low numbers against Vikings. And the more Corruptors there are, the tougher it is for the Terran. souL is trying to produce enough Vikings that he will be able to repel Bly, and it looks like he will be able to. The Corruptors are still trading up pretty well against the Vikings. A few more come on in. The Broodlords have all gone down, though, but the Corruptors, they can pick off the Medivacs. They traded out pretty well there. souL lost the base. However, it is important to note, I said Bly needed to take a base on the left-hand side. He never did. His economy is vulnerable now. His economy is weak. I mean, like, one more blow and his economy is basically just gone. So he's going to try and take this base on the right-hand side. But Bly does need to be very careful. As I was saying before, it's easier for a Terran to basically rebuild their economy than it is for a Zerg. Once a Zerg gets destabilized, it is very tough for the Zerg to come back. As you lose, say, a certain amount of drones, you're busy trying to make units to defend attacks, to make sure you don't falter. It's tough. Bly having to pull drones from really his one mining base to avoid that nuke. He at least does avoid it, luckily for his units. But take a look at this. I mean, Bly, he was down to a 50 worker economy. souL, though, he was down on workers too, but I mean, he just resecured this base. He's able to drop mules there, and his economy is so much better than that of Bly's now, because Bly's economy faltered, whereas souL's did not. And if we take a look, it's like 4,000 minerals a second to basically 1,500. Bly is doing a good job imposing on souL with his constant ling run-bys towards this location here. This location has given souL a lot of grief. Even the creep getting really close to the doorstep of souL. So that's great for Bly to keep that going, but simply take a look at the supply now. I feel like this could be another slow death situation. This is nice here for Bly in order to shut down that drop kill, the medevac. He tries to take the base on the left-hand side, but he gets killed. Once again, a ling run-by moves in towards the third base, gets 8 SCVs, not bad at all. But once again, souL does still have those mules. He's making 6 SCVs at a time, whereas Bly hasn't really made drones for like the past 5 minutes. Snipes get cancelled, that Ultra manages to avoid him, and Bly's actually just taking a very quick engagement here, not giving souL really time to posture defensively, and as a result, he actually smashes this force of souL. souL not really fighting with his whole force, as a matter of fact. He's up on supply, but it sure didn't seem like it there. A couple of good fungals did the work there in order to allow Bly to take a rather good engagement. That being said, though, souL has a lot more units back at home. Bly lost a few drones. He's not remaking those drones, and his economy is just not good at all. He can't afford to replace these units. souL is approaching towards being maxed out, and once again, it seems that Bly just... he's having such a tough go of it in the late game. I mean, like, souL, he's able to keep a much better economy. I've said this multiple times now. Bly, he rebuilds his hatcheries, but the problem is he never rebuilds his drones. He loses too many hatcheries at once, and his economy has been destabilized. Main base mined out, natural mined out, third pretty much mined out, almost dead. The fourth base, I mean, this one's even pretty well mined out. Bly is trying to take all the bases now, so he's going to have one to fall back on at least. However, I mean, it's still just... I mean, I do like that he's taken more bases. He's finally going to build some drones. And I must say that souL is giving Bly a lot of time here, as souL is just getting up more orbital commands. He's getting up more ghosts, more bunkers as well to defend. He's had enough of this third base being harassed, as we all know that Bly is going to be trying again, and there is Bly's army for him to try again. I do feel like that souL has a definitive lead on this game, as, yeah, it looks like these Marauders are going to pick off this hatchery. Just a 4 Marauder hit squad going to get one of the bases from souL. All of a sudden, from Bly, all of a sudden that means that there's really only 2 bases left for Bly. Neither of them even really mining. This one still hadn't had the Liberators, or hadn't had the drones put back in position after the Liberators. Fungals are getting tossed down by Bly, just trying to tag whatever he can, but the problem is the army of souL is far too large, I feel, for Bly to contend with. It's 96 supply to 115. Problem is souL will be able to remax much easier than Bly will. We take a look. Marauders took out this base in the top right-hand side. This base in the left-hand side is having to be rebuilt. And all of a sudden, Bly, he just can't hold on to an economy. Like, he doesn't play that defensive style of Zerg, so he doesn't deflect all the attacks. But then the problem is he doesn't rebuild his economy. And it's easy from a spectator for me what to say, but it seems that, yeah, he just falls behind on economy. He takes a big fight. souL can remax, Bly can't, and that's the show, I think. I mean, another nuke getting called on down on this base, more nukes being built at a time. And all of a sudden, in comes the Terran. souL just securing up another base. He's really in no rush. He can just float over a base, drop a ton of mules. He's going to take the one, or he's floating this base over. I'm guessing it's heading towards the left. Yeah, it's taken a bit of a misconstrued path, which is interesting. We see a big fight going down. This one looks like it could be alright for Bly. The Ultras are pushing forward. However, the problem is I think Bly's just going to run out of steam. He's dropping in supplies. Snipes are picking off those very expensive Ultras. The Corruptors are dealing with the Medivacs. The Infestors have used their spells, but there's simply nothing else on the ground for Bly. He can only afford to make 22 Lings at a time now, and he's even have to bring in his Queens for additional mass. And we see souL, he's even making 6 Reapers at a time. I'm not sure if this is BM, that's probably a misclick, I'm guessing, from trying to use Ghost Snipes. Or who knows, maybe it is BM. Against Bly, as Bly isn't one to GG super punctually, but there we go. All the units getting killed there. Widowmines hitting the Overseers, hitting the Corruptors. There's a few Queens on the ground. Nuke landing. Bly is done. GG gets called as souL is taking another match against Bly. I always like to cast Bly and souL because it looks a little bit chaotic, but I do hope that the next time I cast Bly, regardless of whether it's against souL or not, he seems to have a better plan in the late game, because he goes into the late game, but his late game does not seem to be up to stuff. And he doesn't really try and play the more accepted Zerg styles of the more defensive. I love the counterattacks, but you got to keep the economy going behind it, I think is what I'd say. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to press that like button. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, join the Discord, submit your viewer replays there, or just hang out. And, of course, thanks to those of you who support the channel via the membership program. It goes a long way to buying me Subway every day. I'll see you next time. This has been LaughNgamez.